quantum computing is going to kill Bitcoin. That's what everyone is telling you this cycle as a new thing that they want you to believe, to get scared and to get into FUD, fear, uncertainty, and desperation. So today, let's talk about whether quantum computing is actually a threat or not to Bitcoin and its security. So thank you for joining me again. Today, let's start with talking about what in the world is quantum computing. Yes, you have heard the term, but I don't think you really have gotten into what it actually means. So first off, let's start by defining what quantum computing is. Quantum computing is a paradigm of computing science where we're trying to get way more powerful predictions and way more powerful ways of processing and crunching numbers by emulating something that happens in the quantum level in reality, with electrons basically behaving both as a particle and as a wave. So without overcomplicating things, whereas in the classical computing paradigm, you have zeros and ones, in the quantum landscape, you have all the ranges of possibilities between 0 and 1. So you have a complete range, and it's an approximation. It's a lot of processing that is taking place in parallel for you to get an output. Now, this is oversimplifying things. Even asking a question to a quantum computer is a challenge on its own. You can do your own research. But the thing here for you to understand is that the whole fear that is being published out there is, hey, whenever quantum computing arrives and is as powerful as everyone claims it to be, then definitely the cryptography that backs up Bitcoin and its security will be broken apart, and therefore this will basically go to zero. So here are a few reasons why this is unlikely to happen. So first off, the current state of quantum computing is still very much so experimental, in the sense that only IBM, Google, maybe Amazon out there may have their own quantum computers, and the most amount of, let's call it, cores or processors in the quantum landscape, they're called qubits. The most qubits that these quantum computers have nowadays are in the hundreds, whereas for you to break apart the cryptography that is shielding Bitcoin, you will need millions of qubits. So it is estimated that that will take about 10 years for actually to materialize and have quantum computers that can actually process as much qubits or have as much qubits. So largely right now, this is experimental. It requires superconductivity. It requires basically materials that are frozen even to absolute zero or near to absolute zero for this to work. So first and foremost, please realize that between now and the time when this actually becomes a threat, this is going to evolve, and it will give ample time for Bitcoin to basically get shielded against quantum processing or quantum computing. Bitcoin is software after all, so as long as there is consensus in the form of a Bitcoin implementation proposal that gets issued, and then everyone says, let's go for it, you can upgrade the protocol. Now, that has happened in the past with proposals like SegWit, segregated witness, for instance, or Taproot. So definitely there are ways for Bitcoin to be upgraded and get quantum resistant computing algorithms. So anyway, risk number one is completely debunked in the sense that there is no current risk taking place. But let's think about it further. Let's assume that now Google has created this super powerful quantum computer that is able to crack open whatever cryptography we have used to shield Bitcoin. In this case, there are two things that shield Bitcoin: SHA-256, which is the same technology and cryptography that basically shields the entire internet right now, and the other one is elliptic curve digital signatures. So that is basically how you have public addresses that are backed by private keys. One or both will need to be broken by quantum computing for Bitcoin to actually be at risk. But think about this. You're now in Google, you have developed this technology, and you want to do some harm. You're a bad actor, and you're actually a criminal. So what will be easier to attack? A traditional bank, maybe a government, maybe some identity system, maybe some very sensible weapon or defense system, or to hack and bypass an address on a public blockchain where everything can be tracked. And basically, the second that you do that, it'll be the second that the whole community will take, if it hasn't happened by then, will take as a prompt for shielding the entire blockchain again. Just think about it. What is it more likely for an entity, a malicious entity and nation state that wants to do harm, to basically do it in the most public, decentralized blockchain that is visible and tracked by everyone and their mother, or to maybe hack your opponent government, maybe to steal some of their reserves, maybe to try to get into their banking system? I think you are realizing the answer. And by the time you realize it, you will understand this is all bullshit. This is all just FUD. It's not an actual thing that will break apart Bitcoin. By the time this actually becomes a risk, we will be in the other side of shielding this technology, which, believe it or not, there are entities today that are trying to hack Bitcoin. Wouldn't you think that some Russian, some Chinese guy out there will be paying a lot of attention on how to get into a $2 trillion asset that is there for you to just capture all this wealth? It's way easier to hack people. It's way easier to steal keys from people. It's way easier to hack exchanges. So don't fall victim for the fear. Don't fall victim for big words that you haven't understood just yet on what they all imply, and do your own research, and you will find out that Bitcoin is not only shielded by cryptography today, the same cryptography that shields the entire internet, but is more likely to get protected in the future because all the economic power that it holds than many other systems that are very likely to be the first victims of quantum computing when and if it arrives to mainstream adoption. In any case, please like, subscribe, and share this episode. It helps tremendously. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, bye.